Today's case involves conundrums of enforcing a judgment when each side is required to pay the other, but one of them can't hold up their end of the deal. Here, the wife is supposed to pay her ex-alimony. The ex-husband, in turn, was supposed to pay the condominium fees that derive from the marital residence, or at least otherwise indemnify her from those costs. But for whatever reason, the ex-husband never paid the condo fees, and then the association gets a judgment against both parties in a separate civil case. Now, understandably, the ex-wife is less than pleased, so she files a motion asking the judge to abate her alimony. At least that's the title of the motion, but what she specifically wants is the alimony to sort of be credited towards the unpaid condo fees that were supposed to be paid. The ex-husband at hearing is very insistent that because it's titled a motion to abate, Section 510 controls, and 510 of the IMDMA requires the ex to show a substantial change in circumstances first. Now, I believe the gist of what he's wanted to argue under 510 was that he wasn't paying when the judgment was entered, so really nothing's changed. And as morally questionable as that may be, legally he's still entitled to his monthly stipend. But despite the ex-husband's protest, the trial judge says, it kind of makes sense to offset the obligations, and enters an order to that effect. Most critically to the impending appeal, the judge also orders that if the maintenance ran out before the indemnification was satisfied, the ex-wife could come back and seek further relief. The ex-husband appeals, arguing that the judge was required to follow Section 510. After reviewing the arguments, the appellate court agrees the ex-wife's motion is an enforcement action, not a modification, and affirms the trial court. And it kind of makes sense. She wasn't really seeking a new or different obligation. You can think of it this way. Instead of paying the ex-husband the maintenance and then having him turn it around and give it to her for indemnification, the judge merely orders that she hold on to it and credit it against his debt. So on that argument, the ex-wife wasn't required to show any change in circumstances. Undeterred, the ex-husband kind of moves on to his second argument, that the judge had no authority to order an offset. Now, before we get into that part of the argument, there is kind of some appellate court AFLAC trivia here, and that's the standard of review on enforcement actions in dissolution matters. Now, as it turns out, it's an abuse of discretion when the court has to make a judgment call, but it's manifest weight when the enforcement action centers around an evidentiary or factual issue. Now, moving on to the argument, one of the cases the ex-husband cites is from 42 years ago, but it kind of says this. If one party owes child support and the other is required to pay an unrelated debt in a dissolution action, the court, for public policy reasons, cannot order an offset. But, and there's always a but, today's case has nothing to do with child support. It's alimony, and from the appellate court's perspective, that's a horse of a different color. So the ex loses on both arguments. Anyways, that's all I have. Thanks for watching.